Hello, Chef Marcus Guiliano here from Aromatime Bistro. I want to do a follow-up video, number 3, on my Should You Be Angry Orchard. Let's see, that first video I did stirred up a lot of controversy. I've gotten lots of comments online, people calling me names, and I've had a lot of people that have emailed me saying thank you for what you do. I've had a lot of people comment saying thank you for what you do. And so this week alone, this is the week oldest video, I had 4 salespeople walk into my restaurant that represent big brands, thanking me, saying thank you for standing up for the small guy. See, because Angry Orchard's not a small guy. They're smaller than a Stella Artois cider. They're smaller than some of the others like Strongbow cider, but they're not a small guy. They decided to place their cidery in the Hudson Valley. There's 80 cideries in the state of New York, but they chose to plant themselves in an area where we're known for cider. We're known for cider throughout the Hudson Valley, upstate New York. This is Apple Land. New York is probably one of the top 3 apple producers in the country. So they decided to place themselves here. I even had some cider makers reach out to me on Facebook, private message me and saying, man, that was an awesome video. Thank you very much. There's not a lot of people that think like you when it comes to supporting a truly independent. See, Angry Orchard's owned by a bigger company again. Not the worst company out there. They could be owned by Heineken. They could be owned by Diageo. They could be owned by InBev. And those companies. I mean, I stopped buying Lagunitas when they were owned 51% by Heineken. I stopped buying Oscar Blues. They sold out. I stopped buying their beer because the reason I stopped, and believe it or not, Tuttletown, I stopped buying Tuttletown spirits just within the last year because they were sold out 100% to William Grant. And my philosophy on this was up until they sold out 100%, because I knew the day was coming. I was actually there like 10 years ago when they were signing the stacks of paperwork and the press was there. I walked in, I didn't know what I was getting into. And all of a sudden I was like, what's going on here? And I asked Gabe, what's going on here? He goes, oh, we're doing a licensing, set to sell this and that. I go, you guys selling right now? They're like, we're not selling right now, but there's a clause in there if everything goes well that they can buy us totally out. And I knew that right when they were signing the paperwork. So how I approached Tuttletown was interesting. I said, okay, so they have sales rights to William Grant and Sons. So they're selling everything they can make their whiskey wise to William Grant. They still do their own vodka line and this and that. They still own the property, and they're still in the Hudson Valley, creating jobs and doing the right thing here in the Hudson Valley, even though they're going into a global brand. I said, as long as they're independently owned still, the distillery, I'm still going to buy from them. They're doing jobs here. Said, but the day that they 100% sell out to a big company, that big company doesn't need my money, doesn't need your money. I'd rather turn around and take the money that I'm putting into them and put it into another small producer and help them grow their brand here in New York. So that's the way I do business. Now, am I perfect? No, I'm not perfect. I'm very much more conscious than any other chef out there. You go to Jean-Georges, you go to Peter Kelly, you go to any of these chefs that advertise farm to table, and you go in there and you look behind the bar and they're exploiting all the big brands that are cheaply made, that are going to big companies, and that's where they're making their profit. I don't play that game. I want to buy everything as much as I possibly can from independents. When I have to buy a food item from a big company, I'm like, man, there's got to be another option. Like, this company's owned by ConAgra. Why am I buying from them? And I look feverishly to find another option to do that. I recently cut out our Spectrum organic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, because I can get now locally made organic, with the mother intact, organic apple cider vinegar. So why would I be buying from Spectrum? And Spectrum's owned by Hain Celestial. And yeah, Hain Celestial's a great company. They have great products. They have great missions and all their brands. But I can buy something better now, and I have it. And it's here. It's a regional product. So that's how I think. I'm like, okay, this is good. This is organic. Like, instead of buying organic kale from California, I'd rather buy kale from New Jersey. I'd rather buy organic kale from the Hudson Valley. Even though the stuff from California is certified organic, I'd rather buy something more locally, more regional. Now, if I couldn't buy kale from New York or New Jersey, and I couldn't buy that, then my next best option is organic kale from California. Maybe the Callow label or something, or the Purity label, something like that. So I kind of think things through the way I buy. So that's why I don't buy from Angry Orchard. They're a big company. They're not the worst, but they're owned by a big company. And what they did was they decided to take themselves and plant them right here in the Hudson Valley. between all the apple orchards and the 80 statewide cideries. They have a beautiful showroom. Okay, I've seen pictures of it. I know people that have gone there, and people that go there come to my restaurant. And what do they say to me? Why don't you have Angry Orchard? They're local. I said, no, Angry Orchard is not a solely local company. And all the apples they're using there are not what they're supplying the majority of their ciders with. I said, I know they make, I've told this to many guests, I know they make specialty ciders, and I know they have this and this and this, and they have it there. I said, but when you go to Washington State, when you go to Texas, when you go to Florida, when you go to Georgia, you're not buying a product that was made here in the Hudson Valley. You're buying a product that was made to expand across the country. So they have a showroom here in the Hudson Valley. And I simply just read their ingredients. I said, here's what's in the cider. First ingredient, cider. Second ingredient, water. Third ingredient, apple juice concentrate. They also have an artificial flavoring in there. It says natural flavoring. Now, how natural flavors are typically done is it's some kind of chemical, it's a synthetic flavor to mimic a natural flavor. That's a part, natural flavor. This food stuff is so confusing. I've been doing this for 20 years, reading labels, understanding food, and this and that. So you read their label, there's all that across this. When you pick up like a nut cider, here's a German cider, Weidmann. This is a beautiful cider. Sorry, the camera's not in focus. This is a liter bottle. It just says, made from 100% apples on it. 100% apples, that's it. This is one of my favorite, Aaron Burr's. This is local. This is a local cider, Aaron Burr's cider. Okay, there you go. Face that, and then you can see it. It says made from unmanaged, wild harvested, uncultivated, unsprayed, foraged apples. That's it. There's no water in there. There's no sugar in there. There's no concentrate in there. There's nothing like this. Here's a French one. This is an awesome cider. This is really an awesome cider. Let's the camera focus in on there if we can. Again, contains or made from 100% fresh apples. Now, if you look at the Stella Artois cider, it's going to say on there, again, cider, water, apple juice concentrate, and this and that. Here's one of my favorites, Metal House cider. They're from right up the road here, just north of New Paltz. They, again, 100% apples. This is champagne method, folks. This means that the carbonation happens in the bottle. This is an amazing product. Of course, a little pricier, a lot pricier than Angry Orchard. This is amazing. This would be one of my first choices in cider. So is the Aaron Burr cider. Amazing stuff. And we do have some international ciders. So when it comes to all this, now I had salesmen. I stopped in this week. I had 3 or 4 salespeople that walked in this week. They're like, Marcus, that video was awesome. You're so right. Now, these people work for the big companies, and they could never comment on it on their Facebook page saying good for you because they're turning around and selling other big brands. And some of them don't sell big brands. They're like, man, good for you. It's good for standing up. Good for doing that. See, I'm not that farm to table chef that like Jean George, and I've called all these chefs out. You can go to my foodfraudtv.com. They claim they're farm to table. You walk in and they're serving Guinness, owned by Diageo, which is the worst company out there. InBev, another terrible company out there. So they're selling these other brands that are owned by the big brands because they're cheaper products, and that's where they make high margins. And people recognize the labels, and there's no thinking about it, and they just give me that and make high money. I'm not about that. I'm totally not about that. I want to feel good about the money that I make. And for me to support Angry Orchard, knowing that they're owned by a bigger company. Now, if they were the only option here in the Hudson Valley, then that would be my first choice. Because again, like I said, this is a progression of how I think. What's the best? What's the second best? Can I get the second best to the first best, or the third best to the second best? So if they were the only brand here in the Hudson Valley, then yeah, I would buy Angry Orchard. I'd be like, yeah, this is an awesome company. They give to the veterans. The staff donates their tips, and so, which is true. Which I found that out. Somebody came and approached me and said, I think my son works there, and they donate their tips. They pay their staff $14 an hour. This, and this, and this. I'm not sure how legal it is to donate their tips. I guess the staff would have to agree on that because that would be, but although they're not tipped employees, so I don't know the legalities of that. I know for me here, I don't have control over my staff's tips. They get paid $7.50 an hour plus tips. Which if you want to check and see if a restaurant's legit, you ask the waitstaff how much they're making. I know a lot of restaurants that don't pay their waitstaff anything because they work for tips, totally legal, or they pay their waitstaff 40 bucks for a 12-hour shift or $3 an hour. Totally 100% illegal. If somebody makes a phone call, the labor board will come in there and make them pay all those back wages. New York State, it's $7.50 an hour for tipped employees. So I don't have control of what my staff does with their tips. If they're paying them $14 an hour there, then they're probably not considered tipped personnel, and I don't know how that works. But my staff has 100% say in their tips, and I can't say, oh, I want to donate your tips to a charity so I look good. I can't do that. Again, I don't know the legalities, so I don't want to get into that. I do understand that they donate to veterans. Now, I did make a claim in my first video, or I did say this is most likely, probably, or a lot of apple juice concentrate comes from China. I've been told that their apple juice concentrate comes from France. Has this proven to me? Has been shown a label? No, I've not seen any kind of proof like that. So I don't know how true that is, where their apple juice concentrate's coming from, but it's apple juice concentrate in there. So all these ciders I just showed you, now we have like a dozen ciders on our menu, and not one of our ciders lists ingredients laid out like water, sugar, apple juice concentrate, cider, natural flavorings. Angry Orchard does that. Now, like I said with Tuttletown, I stopped supporting them because now they're sold out 100%. If there were no other cider makers again in the Hudson Valley, I'd say, yeah, Angry Orchard's it. They're here locally, and this, that's a good thing. So as a chef, as somebody who's concerned about where our money goes, see, I cannot stand going into a store and buying. I can't stand when a store says support local, and you walk into a store or a restaurant and they put out, so we support local, and you go in there and there's nothing local. What they mean by support local is support an independent, locally owned business that's relying upon cheap commodity goods from China, Malaysia, from all these other countries, so the owner can make more money, so support an independent owner. Okay, now I'm an independent place as well, and I want to support as many independents as possible. Am I perfect? Believe me, I'm not perfect. I will spend extra money a lot of times, like all winter long. I bought broccoli at 40 bucks a case, 50 bucks a case. I could have bought Mexican broccoli, imported broccoli. Nothing against Mexican broccoli, but I could have bought Mexican broccoli at $19.99 a case instead of $50 for local broccoli. Same thing with cauliflower, same scenario. I bought local cabbage all winter. I bought local tomatoes all winter. I bought one case of tomatoes from Florida all winter long. That's it. Everything else was here local. I paid dearly for it, but I was proud of that. Okay, I'm proud of the ingredients I buy. My salt, I don't buy Himalayan salt. There's 55 mines in the Himalayan mountains, 55 companies. You don't know what's going on. Himalayan salt is more like a generic term now, unless you're buying American Blue Green, the Symphony salt, which has 2 or 3 medical studies on it, amazing salt, and it's super expensive. But if you look at salt deposits around the world, the Utah Flats has the same period of salts as the Himalayan mountains, and the Redmond Real Salt is amazing, and I'm 100% behind it because I've met the owner. There's one mine, there's one company, that what you take out of the mine is what goes into the package. It just gets cut up into different size pieces, whether it's coarse, kosher grind, or kosher size, or fine, or rock salt. That's okay. I feel good about doing that. In fact, I was on Good Morning America last year with their salt because I'm a firm advocate, and Good Morning America found pieces that I did on it and include me in their salt piece. So that was great. So when I look through what I'm buying, it's what can I do that's going to impact an owner? What can I do that's going to impact the community? What can I do that, like Johnny Walker was sold to Diageo. What Diageo did was they dismantled that facility. They dismantled that facility and started producing in their big facility, and hundreds and hundreds of people lost their jobs in a small town in Scotland because now it's owned by a big company. Now that's not what happened to Angry Orchard, but Angry Orchard employs people here locally. Not all their production comes from here because it can't. Some of it does, some of it doesn't. They rely upon imported products to bring up their volume. So when you look at that, that's their showroom. And they're big productions to supply how many ever, I don't know how many states are in. They've got to be in 50 states or 48 states or something ridiculous like that because their parent company is in that many states. And the reason their parent company formed them was because they already had inroads into all these states, and it's not a problem just to add it onto a truck, add it into distribution, add it onto shelves. This is why Budweiser InBev has so many SKUs. You walk in and there's a 12 ounce, a 16 ounce, a 22 ounce. Because anytime they launch a new product, they already own the space on the shelf there. They own the space on the shelf, which avoids a small guy from getting on the shelf. They just swap out sizes, swap out products, and they're on the infrastructure's already there. So Imagine walking into Johnny Walker and seeing a beautiful showroom and this, and then all of a sudden they tell you, or you found out, that that's not really where Johnny Walker's really made. This is just the showroom. Most of the Johnny Walker relies upon all this other stuff outside of here that's not part of the picture. So I can equate the Angry Orchard thing to being part of that. It's, you're going into a place that's it right there, and the outside picture is huge. Now I don't know the specific other places where they actually brew, but if you look at Sam Adams, their parent company, they contract brew across the country. In fact, I don't believe Sam Adams ever really had like an official brewery. They might have had like a showroom like they did in Boston, this and that, but Sam Adams was not the first license in Massachusetts for making beer. Harpoon has license number 1. So when Sam Adams tell you that the first craft brewery in Massachusetts, they used to say that. I saw and see that. That's not true. Harpoon was the very, very first craft brewery. Now, somebody said to me recently, Marcus, your favorite breweries here, they don't buy the hops from here. So what's wrong with Angry Orchard not buying their apples from here? Again, we're in apple country. That's what's expected. If you look at all the craft breweries across the state, very few of them, the business model's not quite there. The hop supply's not quite there. It's not there for all the breweries, the craft breweries, to be buying local hops. Now, some do, and they have a farm brewery set up, which means they're buying from within a certain amount of distance of the farm, and they're buying, they might grow some of their own, like Arrowwood up here is a farm brewery. So it means they're relying upon local stuff, the majority of local stuff, to produce their product. But they're never going to make it to 48 states. They're never going to make it to 4 states. They're limited to, based upon what they can produce. And there's nothing wrong with this. I like this. I like this model. They're based to what they can brew around here and buy around here, and that's their business model. So yeah, I like that business model. But most breweries are not set up like that, so it's not the norm. Again, if Angry Orchard was one of the only few in the area, and the business model was that, then it's more acceptable for me to buy, because that's the existing business model. That's where the curve starts. That's where it starts. But it doesn't start there. It starts with 80 other individually family-owned, small-time apple cider makers that a lot of them are doing an amazing, fantastic job. And you throw Angry Orchard in the mix, and again, I feel it's a showroom out there. My second video I did, I had a ton of comments. I even had emails, people emailing me, wow, thanks for standing up, cider makers emailing me, salespeople telling me I did a fantastic job, thank you for that, and guests coming into the restaurant saying, man, we love what you do, thank you so much. So, is there apple juice concentrate from China? I don't personally know. Is it from France? I don't personally know. I've been told it is from France. I've not seen labels. I was touring a place, a big a truffle producer that makes oils and stuff like that. And I'm not going to mention his name because he's actually threatened to sue me in the past because he didn't like the things I said about him. But he's sitting there telling me, we only use honey from the United States to make our truffle honey. We only use truffle and I'm looking at the pail sitting there, and it's product of Argentina, China, Canada, United States, right there on the pallet of honey. And the guy's telling me right into my face that we only use honey from America to make our truffle honey. And I got this on camera, but the guy's threatened to sue me before. So I haven't posted that, and I haven't called him out for that because I've been threatened several times for lawsuits. The company up in the mine, Widow Jane, their attorney sent me 2 letters and told me to cease, take my stuff down, this and that. So I reworded it and I put it back up because I feel there's much better bourbon out there. The business setup for buying bourbon here in New York than what they were doing. They were constantly, or not constantly, but they had problems mislabeling in the beginning. They were breaking the law. There's an attorney in Chicago who's a whiskey aficionado who totally called them out, told them there's nothing special about Widow Jane. He basically said Widow Jane is not handmade or this or that. It's not some great. All they're doing is buying stuff from MGP, a Midwest supplier who makes rye and bourbons for tons of people across the country, and they're cutting it with limestone. They're cutting it with limestone. they're cutting it with limestone water locally from here. And he goes, there's nothing special about Widow Jane. Widow Jane might have changed since then. I don't know. So, those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts on me buying local stuff. You're not going to walk into my place, and I'm not going to say buy local, support local, and you're not going to see anything from InBev there. You're not going to see any of that kind of stuff. You're just not going to see it. Other restaurants you are, and that's fine. But I'm not that person. So leave your thoughts and comments and this and that. Maybe I was a little harsh on Angry Orchard on the first one. But it's frustrating when people walk here and say, why don't you have that local cider? Their company, they're a local company. That's local. It's local. Haven't you been local? The warehouse is local. That part is local. The apples they have there are local. But whatever they're putting in there is not. I know this is a repetitive video. I'm sure you probably didn't stay on for the whole thing. But thanks for watching anyway.